Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new NVIDIA daily update video. So today let's go over NVIDIA. Let's talk about what's happening to NVIDIA, what we can expect moving forward, and all that good stuff. If you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. But again, if you enjoy my technical analysis, my updates in the charts, etc. Well, again, I have that YouTube membership where I share all my thoughts, post updates as the market's open trading every single day. So again, would love to have you there, guys. For just $3 a month, you get... The link is in the description below at the top of the description. But again, for $3 a month, you get access to the first tier. It includes all my Tesla updates, options flow, different time frame analysis, etc. And also includes, things like SPY, VIX, things like that, right? So again, all it is, $3 a month. Love to have you there. $5 includes NVIDIA if you're interested in the NVIDIA updates as well. And then, of course, the final tier, tier 3, $7 a month is the full package. You get everything I mentioned, plus, of course, access to my tier 3 posts on YouTube. I do updates on also other stocks in the market that are not Tesla, not NVIDIA, essentially, when there's something worth, sharing or something's setting up. And you get access to my private Discord. We have a chat room with members. There's, people day trading, sharing thoughts nonstop there. And also every Sunday, I do chart requests on Discord with tier 3 members as well. So, guys, NVIDIA, the king, has finally awoken, up almost 3% on the day, closing at 191.5. But now we enter a very interesting situation here. Does the king have what it takes to break past these green Fibonaccis? I mentioned the king, this stock loves these green Fibonaccis, right? Every single time the stock has any rally or drop, it loves the green Fibs, right? For instance, here, right into those green Fibonaccis or right around them. Actually, I think I have this drawn slightly incorrect. I think this was actually not here. I think this was here. Yeah, there it is here, right? You can see pretty much right into those green Fibonaccis. Couldn't actually close above it, pretty much closing at them the whole time despite going above it. But also, green Fibonacci's, guys, green Fibs, green Fib, green Fib, green Fib, green Fib. Take a look over here. Look at this. Oh, take this right here. Go like this. Boom, boom, boom. Look at this. Look at these. Green Fib right here. Boom, boom. Easy, right? The stock, I'm telling you, man, the stock loves green Fibs. Or like back here, for instance. Look at this one right here. This beautiful drop right here. Where did it rally to? Green Fibs. Stock loves the green Fibs, man. I don't know what it is. It has a fetish for them. But we're pretty much there once again, guys. We're at the green Fibs once again. Like I said, the reason I'm looking at this with these green Fibs in this fashion, if you will, is pretty simple, right? When we had this massive fall here, we did arguably make that lower low, right? We were making higher highs, higher low here. And then we, of course, made that lower low here, right? We broke this low here, made that lower low. And my question right now, and again, this is more of a question. I'm not saying, people always get upset. They're like, oh my God, it's, why you're so bearish? It's like, well, no, it's not guaranteed, but I can't disregard the potential of this just being yet another push to the green Fibs into a rejection, just like this. We've seen many times with the stock. It happens all the time, both directions. So the question moving forward is, because we made this lower low, is this just a lower high into potential rejection from here? And then, of course, we'll have to reassess how it rejects, where we can go to, right? We'll take a step by step, of course, one step at a time. But this is the level to watch for as a potential rejection, right? Potentially big rejection as well. Now, from a bullish perspective, if the bulls can not only break past the 192s, but also close a daily above, again, something they failed to do here. I just want to illustrate this one very clearly, because you can see that they, for instance here, right, these green Fibs, you can see we pushed above these green Fibs, right, that we definitely pushed above them intraday, but you can see we never really closed convincingly above them by any means. Even this one here where we went well above it, we closed still pretty decently below it. So that's why I make it very, very clear. It's about not only going above the green Fibs, but at least closing at least one daily candle above them, ideally too, but at least a daily candle above them. Not like this candle here where we close right at them, above them, nicely above them, right? If we can see that, if the bulls can do that, right, essentially just a bit above 192, yeah, that's a good sign. That's a very bullish sign, and that to me will remove any potential dead cat possibilities, I guess you can say here. And the stock, I think, will actually see, at the very least, it'll see 200, probably could even enter into the low 200s as well, 205, 210. Remember, the stock likes moving those $5 increments when it gets into unknown territory. So, 200, above 200, 205, above 205, 210. It loves the $5. But that level, that push to 200 and potentially higher, it's not yet unlocked. Think of it as it's a video game. It's literally a video game. In order to unlock the level to this boss up here, you want to fight the $200 boss, you better get past this boss down here. If you can't get past this boss, you're not ready for this boss. But if you can get past this boss, hey, we're off to the $200 boss. You know what I mean? Pretty simple stuff, right? So think of it like that. Again, watch for those daily closures above these green Fibs. If we do, very, very much severely reduces the potential of this being a dead cat bounce off of this low down here. And then, potential, at the very least, a double bottom equal low, or maybe even a lower low. So let's continue monitoring that. Let's continue monitoring that and see how this, how we react. We are also pretty distant away from the 9 EMA. So there are those kind of, maybe slight overextension concerns. But like I mentioned, once we broke out of this, I told you NVIDIA on this retest over here on, what was this, Friday. And I exited at pretty much right under where we closed. I exited at like 191.23, something like that. Almost where we closed. So technically I missed 0.2 cents. Oh my God. But I mentioned how I do expect NVIDIA to go higher. I mentioned that regardless if this is a dead cat on Friday or not, I still expect this to go higher to about 192. And here we are. So this is the true test, guys. This is the true test. If we start rejecting from here, if we start breaking below this trend line again, if we start losing the 921 EMA again, if we start losing the 183 level again, any of those or a combination of those factors starts to occur, that could be a problem, right? We could be entering a bit of an issue here. But until that actually happens, a rejection from here doesn't guarantee that this is going to be a bearish rejection and we go lower. What further guarantees that, again, levels, guys, levels. Losing those key levels, those 3 points I just mentioned, losing those then opens up the possibility for bears to send this one at the very least to retest these bottoms, if not potentially even lower lows, right? Absolutely. But even if we get a rejection from here, as long as we continue showing strength around, sort of, we'll say mid 180s, we'll say around the mid 180s, as long as we continue showing strength from there, we absolutely can still round up and do something like this, right? Just because we reject from here, it doesn't guarantee this is a dead cat, but it keeps that possibility open until we start losing those lower levels at the bottom that should be support. Hopefully that makes sense, right? So it's just something that's worth paying attention to as a possibility. But again, if we break above this range, start closing daily candles above this range, very bullish in my opinion. I think, honestly, at that point, I think 200 is into earnings. Yeah, there's no way we don't get 200 into earnings. I'd be pretty surprised if we do not. Let's continue monitoring, guys. Let's continue monitoring and see how this overall develops. But that's kind of how I wanted to look at it, right now, moving into what could be a pretty impactful week for NVIDIA. Now, NVIDIA, of course, does not report earnings until, honestly, actually almost like late November almost, right? So almost a month out, arguably. But there's a lot of earnings this week. I think we have the Fed this week as well. I need to double check what day that is. Wednesday, probably. It's usually Wednesdays. But we have a lot of earnings this week. What do we have? We have Microsoft. Wednesday, actually. We have Amazon. Thursday, we have Apple. Thursday, we have Google. Wednesday, we have Meta. Wednesday. Guys, we have a lot of earnings coming up, right? AMD is next week, Tuesday, but AMD can move in, can move NVIDIA up and down for better or for worse as well. So, worth paying attention to, especially with AMD up here. Very curious to see how the reaction will go, actually. So the reason I bring that up is because think of this week as being almost like a mini earnings week for NVIDIA, right? Because again, you have to understand, whenever these big dogs are reporting, the big dogs, the Max 7s, the Microsofts, the Amazons, the Apples, the Googles, the Metas, when these guys are reporting, they always talk about AI, chips, demand, GPU clusters, powers, whatever, all this that they need, that NVIDIA supplies. If they say bullish things about NVIDIA, great, right? That's going to be positive for the stock, and that could be what breaks us past those green fibs. But if they don't, maybe they say something bad. What if they say maybe they're spending less now, or they don't need it as much, or maybe they're making their own, whatever. Who knows? That could be a problem as well. So for better or for worse, think of this week as almost like a mini earnings week for NVIDIA. So that's also, in my opinion, worth paying attention to. But the other thing I also want to mention is going to be, well, the 4-hour time frame, the SMI, right? Look at this bad boy here. Unless NVIDIA is in a very parabolic move up or down, which sometimes it is, right? It gets into those moves, like for instance, that we saw here, right? I mean, this was one of the most parabolic moves I've seen on a stock this big in a while, to be completely honest with you. But, even like these kind of smaller-ish ones like this, or like kind of like this, unless it's in like those, much more parabolic moves up or down, which is only like maybe 5 to 10% of the time that the stock actually does that. Most of the other time it's not going that parabolically up or down. This is, decent, but it's not parabolic by any means. But you can see here, right? The SMI at the bottom here, hey, if you just bought this bottom SMI here and just closed your eyes and waited and then sold at the top, congratulations, you are up on that trade 7%, 7.5% almost. That's pretty good. But the point I'm trying to make is the fact that the SMI is now, well, where is it, guys? It's at the top end of the spectrum here, right? Whenever this thing gets to the top end of the spectrum and the stock is, for the most part, in a range, for the most part, right? I wouldn't say we're in a massive range here, but we're definitely in a somewhat of a range here, right? We're definitely not going parabolic in one direction or the other, like we did here, for instance. But when we're in a more of a range, that's where we have to be a little more careful. And, that's where we're in, arguably a bit more chop. But that's where the SMI becomes very powerful, because now that we're at the upper end of the spectrum here with the 4-hour SMI, well, the people that were probably not buying here or were scared, I was waiting personally, admittedly I was waiting for strength, on this breakout. So I did miss technically half the move to the upside, but I got the other half, which was this here. But we're at the top end of the spectrum. I mean, there's not much else to say. Same idea when we were here. Yeah, we went a little bit higher, but that was a divergence, and then we went lower, right? When we were here, we rejected. When we were here, we rejected. When we were here, rejected. When we were here, rejected, right? It's just the same thing. And the opposite is true too. We're near the bottom, we pushed up. Down here, we're near the bottom, we pushed up. Down here at the bottom, had a double bottom, bullish divergence, pushed up. The 4-hour SMI is potent, guys. It's quite powerful. It really is, especially on these bigger stocks. Very, very powerful stuff. So the point I'm just trying to make is the fact that those green fibs just above us at 192 and change, plus also the 4-hour SMI being at the top end of the spectrum, has reason for concern for me to be, cautious, I guess you can say, if you will, right? A little more cautious, a little more, not as bullish, if that makes sense, right? To me, the bullish trade, yeah, break 183, we see 192. And that's what I was mentioning for quite some time. The whole time we were chopping here, I mentioned break 192, or break 183, we see 192. There we have it. We're here. We're at our destination zone. But that's kind of something that I really want to make sure I kind of, make it very, very clear as to what I mean. And, my potential concerns and, it could be kind of rejection zone from here potentially as well, 192, especially if we fail to start closing daily candles above it. Again, not just go above it. I want to see closures above it, guys. Very important. And I illustrated why earlier. Now, with that being said, the options flow is incredibly bullish. So maybe we do break past it. Maybe the bulls come in strong. Maybe we do swing past 192, start closing above that. Fantastic. But again, I'd want to see it happen, just like I wanted to see this, situation here. I don't want to get chopped up. Bears got trapped here, bulls got trapped here. And then once everyone gave up, it finally rocketed, essentially, right? Same idea, exact same idea. I'll wait. I'll see. If the strength starts to show me that it wants to go higher, great. I'll re-enter. Not a problem. But again, I'm just trying to illustrate my thought process, so hopefully it makes sense. So you don't think I'm just like saying random things just for the sake of saying random things. But options flow has been very bullish today, guys. I will admit, yeah, some bears here and there, but it's very bullish. 75 pretty much million bullish flow, only 7 million bearish flow. Very, very bullish, guys. Very, 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 very bullish. 1.1 million call, for instance, 210 strike, December 19th. It's bullish. This makes me think that we're going to break past it. I'll be honest. This does. But again, I don't base my trades off of options flow. It does make me believe that we probably will break it. But until I actually see the price break it, until the price action tells me it wants to go higher, I say, I wait. I took my profits. I'm happy. Now I observe. And I'll wait for the next setup. Let's see. Maybe it comes sooner. Maybe it comes later. Maybe we don't get it at all. Let's see. But that's how I see it. And that's what I'm thinking. And those are my thoughts. Thanks for watching. And I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.